I've never used a laser tape measure, but I've heard a lot of positive things about them. So let's get the testing underway and see if a $19 laser tape measure is just as accurate and good as one that cost $89. In the first test, we'll see which tape measure has the best standout. Then we'll see which one has the most accurate laser at 100 feet distance. We'll see if any of the tape measures are waterproof. Then we'll see how they handle exposure to sawdust and vibration. To serve as our control is a regular tape measure made by Stanley Fatmax. It's a 16-foot tape measure and costs right at $20. The Stanley Fatmax is made in USA with global materials. 14 feet of reach. It claims to have blade armor coating for maximum durability. We're going to test that. The hook is secured in 3 different locations. And the Stanley Fatmax has a blade width of 1.16 inches. If you work alone, the distance you can extend the end of the tape measure can really make a huge difference. To help sell more tape measures, some manufacturers advertise reach instead of standout. Reach is standout plus 3 feet the distance of a person's arm. I put together this simple test jig to measure standout. I'll be extending the tape at a 16.5 degree angle. And the Stanley Fatmax claims 14 feet of reach, which is actually 11 feet of standout. And the Stanley Fatmax actually performed better than advertised at 142.5 inches or just about 12 feet. At a price of $19 or $1 less than the Stanley Fatmax is this Toolman brand. Has a 16-foot physical tape measure and 131 feet laser tape measure. It claims to have a high measurement accuracy of plus or minus 3 millimeters. You can use a USB charger to recharge the 300 milliamp hour battery. The Toolman is made in China. The display on the Toolman is very small at 10 by 19 millimeters. And the Toolman blade isn't nearly as wide as the Stanley Fatmax at 0.7 inches. And the Toolman gave up at 77.5 inches or close to about 6.5 feet. So the Stanley has about a 5-foot standout advantage. At a price of $24 is this Meterk brand. The physical tape measure is 16.5 feet in length and the laser 131.2 feet. SCE as well as metric measurements. It claims to be plus or minus 2 millimeters at 131 feet. To measure the distance, just aim the laser at an object and then push the distance button. The tape measure can be used about 5,000 times per charge. The Meterk brand is made in China. And the Meterk tape is quite a bit wider than the Toolman at 0.88 inches. And the Meterk made it all the way to 101 inches, which is actually pretty good for this style of tape measure. At a price of $30 is this Zekbean brand. It can measure up to 16 feet with the physical tape measure and up to 131 feet with the laser. Includes an automatic blade lock button. Accuracy up to plus or minus 1/115th of an inch. Includes a lithium-ion rechargeable battery. The Zekbean brand is made in China. And the Zekbean tape is pretty narrow at 0.7 inches. And the Zekbean gave up at only 65.5 inches or about 35 inches less than the Meterk brand. At a price of $36 is this Milsee brand. Lithium rechargeable battery. It includes an area measurement, volume measurement, and Pythagoras. It claims to have a wear-resistant nylon coating. We're going to test that. Measures up to 131 feet. Accuracy within 1/16th of an inch. The Milsee brand is made in China. And the Milsee tape is the same as the Zekbean at 0.7 inches. And the Milsee performs slightly better than the Zekbean at 67 inches. At a price of $38 is this TickTockTools tape measure. It says it can measure up to 197 feet with the laser. 16-foot physical tape measure. It claims to offer easy one-handed operation. It includes an automatic blade lock. Bright digital screen is large and easy to read. Rechargeable battery with the level indicator to help you avoid running out of juice. The TickTockTools is made in China. The TickTockTools tape is the same as the Zekbean and the Milsee at 0.7 inches. And the TickTockTools made at 72.5 inches. At a price of $40 is this General Tools brand. Unlike the other brands, the General Tools does not include rechargeable batteries. The other tape measures measure around 131 to 198 feet, but the General Tools is only good for 65 feet. However, the display is large and very easy to read. Laser measures from back of unit. The tape measure has an automatic blade lock. High contrast screen is easy to read from all angles. The General Tools tape is 0.71 inches in width. And the General Tools blade folded at 69.5 inches. Also at a price of $40, the same price as the General Tools, is this eTape. The digital tape measure is crafted from weather-resistant polycarbonate plastic for durability. The eTape does not have a laser, instead it's just an electronic tape measure. Durable construction. You can measure multiple areas with ease without having to write down calculations. The eTape is made in Korea, and the eTape gave up early at 63.5 inches. At a price of $40 is this Bexum brand. Automatic blade lock, double-sided scale with a nylon coating, 16-foot manual tape measure and up to 131 feet with the laser. Contains a user-friendly backlight. The Bexum brand is made in China. The blade on the Bexum is wider than average at 0.88 inches, and the Bexum performed better than average at 85 inches. At a price of $45 is this Lexivon brand. The laser can measure up to 130-foot distance. Smooth single-button operation provides quick and easy long-distance measurement. 3/4 inch dual-sided print scale with nylon coating. Uses 2 AAA batteries. Durable nylon coating provides up to 5 times the blade life, and the blade width is only 0.7 inches, and the Lexivon only made it 68 inches before folding. At a price of $47 is this Hygiene brand. The laser measures up to 131 feet, can be used up to 3,000 times per charge. Includes a built-in 180 milliamp hour lithium rechargeable battery. The Hygiene brand is made in China, and the width of the Hygiene is only 0.7 inches, and the Hygiene only made it 76 inches before giving up. At a price of $50 is this DTAPE. It claims to be waterproof. We're going to test that. 131 feet silent laser range finder. Built-in rechargeable battery. Includes a nylon coating for long life. It's supposed to have an automatic blade lock, but unfortunately, the blade does not seem to be locking. The battery can be used continuously for 5 hours on a single charge. The DTAPE is made in China. The DTAPE has a blade width of 0.7 inches. And the DTAPE performed about the same as the Hygiene at 73 inches. At a price of $54, the second most expensive brand we'll be testing is made by Prexiso. The laser measures up to 135 feet. Nylon blade coating resists rust and corrosion. Double-sided tape for more convenience. Can be used for 5 hours straight and up to 5,000 measurements on one full charge. Made in China. The Prexiso has a blade width of 0.96 inches, and it performed much better than average at 98.5 inches to move into third place behind the Meterk brand. And the most expensive brand we'll be testing at $89 is made by Koiss. The laser can measure up to 40 meters. Claims accuracy within plus or minus 1 millimeter. The tape measure is made of polycarbonate. The Koiss brand has a rechargeable battery. The display is large and very easy to read. The Koiss brand is made in Korea. The Koiss has a blade width of 0.9 inches. And the Koiss performed a lot better than average at 93 inches. So the Stanley Fatmax came in on top at 142.5 inches of Standout. The very affordable Meterk brand performed very well at 101 inches, Prexiso 98.5, Koiss 93, and Bexum 85 inches. The size of the screen is another factor to consider, and the Korean-made eTape and the Koiss have the largest displays at 792 square millimeters. Prexiso is nearly as large at 650, Milsee 550, and Meterk 527 square millimeters. Let's test out the laser measuring capability on a sunny day. We'll start out first at 25 feet and 11 inches. And the Toolman display measured 25 feet 10 and 5/8 inches. The display is very small and it's very hard to read the fraction. And the display in the Meterk is much easier to read, 25 feet 10 and 3/8 inches. And the Zekbean display is very difficult to read, 25 feet 10 and 13/16 inches. And the Milsee display is nearly impossible to read, 25 feet 8 and 15/16 inches. So the Milsee is off by over an inch. And the TickTockTools display is quite an eye chart, 25 feet 11 and 13/16 inches. And the General Tools display is challenging to read, and it's reading 26 feet and 5/16 of an inch. And the Bexum display is very easy to read, 26 feet and 1/16 of an inch. Just like the General Tools, the display on the Lexivon is challenging to read, and it seems to be out of range at this distance. And the display on the Hygiene is pretty small at 25 feet 11 and 3/4 inches. The display on the DTAPE is definitely challenging to read, 25 feet 11 and 3/4 inches, the same as the Hygiene. And the display on the Prexiso is very easy to read, 25 feet 11 and 3/4 inches. And the Koiss has by far the best display and is very easy to read at 25 feet 11 and 11/16 inches. The method I use to assess accuracy is far from perfect. However, most of the brands were accurate within 1 inch at 26 feet of distance. The Milsee was off by 2 inches, and the Lexivon wasn't able to provide a measurement. Rating the tape measures for readability outdoors is highly subjective, but the Prexiso and the Koiss are very easy to read with the best possible rating of 1. Meterk and Bexum perform nearly as well with the rating of 2. Most of the tape measures are rated for over 100 feet, so let's go ahead and move out to 100 feet and see how they perform. And the Toolman shows 111 feet 3 inches, so the Toolman's off by about 11 feet. Unfortunately, the building is too far away for the Meterk. And the Zekbean indicates 108.5 feet, so the Zekbean is off by around 8 feet. And the TickTockTools is very close at 101 feet and 3 inches. The building is out of range for the General Tools. And the building is out of range for the Bexum. And the Lexivon is now working properly, 101 feet and 3 inches, the same measurement as the TickTockTools. And the Hygiene is way off at 127 feet. The DTAPE is measuring 101 feet and 6 inches. 101 feet and 5 inches for the Prexiso. 100 feet is out of range for the Koiss. So the TickTockTools, Lexivon, Prexiso, and DTAPE provided an accuracy that's very close to being within 1 foot. Before we test the precision of the lasers indoors, let's first test the abrasion resistance of each of the brands to see which blade offers the best protective coating. I'll keep the sandpaper wet so it doesn't clog. Let's first make 10 back and forth passes, beginning with the Stanley Fatmax. After 10 passes, the Stanley Fatmax still looks as good as new. After 40 back and forth passes, the Stanley Fatmax just has a couple of areas where the paint has worn through, but the numbers are still very easy to read. I'm going to replace the sandpaper between testing each of the brands. Alright, the numbers are starting to really fade after just 10 passes. The Toolman's in pretty bad shape, the paint is worn off in some areas, and some of the numbers are becoming hard to read. After 10 passes, the Meterk is still in good shape. And the Meterk experienced quite a bit of damage, but definitely held up better than the Toolman. After only 10 passes, the Zekbean is in really bad shape. The numbers are hard to read, and the paint is worn all the way down to the metal in some areas. Unfortunately, the paint is worn all the way through the metal in many areas, and it's very hard to read the numbers. And the paint is wearing off very quickly with the Milsee. It just doesn't seem to have a very good protective coating. The numbers are badly faded, and the paint is worn through in several areas. No visible damage to the TickTock. The TickTock has a protective coating on it that did help it perform better than the other brands, but it still has some damage. So far, so good for the General. 30 more passes. The General has a protective coating, but it's not quite as good as the TickTock's. The numbers are starting to fade, and it's worn through the paint in some areas. After 10 passes, the eTape is still in good shape. Unfortunately, the eTape experienced a lot of damage, and the numbers have worn off in some areas. After only 10 passes, the BeiXun is in very bad shape, and the numbers are worn off. The BeiXun has definitely experienced the most damage of all the brands. The paint is totally worn through in some areas, and the numbers are completely worn off. And the Lexivon is still in pretty good shape. And the Lexivon is worn through in some areas, but has definitely performed better than average. And the Hygiene is still in pretty good shape after 10 passes. And the Hygiene experienced quite a bit of damage. The numbers are starting to fade, and it's worn through the paint in some areas. And the DTAPE is looking pretty good after 10 passes. And the DTAPE seems to have slightly more wear than the Hygiene. And the Prexiso still looks as good as new. Unfortunately, the Prexiso experienced quite a bit of damage after 40 passes. Unfortunately, the Koiss brand has worn through in one area. You can still read the numbers on the Koiss brand, but it did wear through in some areas. Assessing abrasion resistance is highly subjective, but the Stanley Fatmax definitely performed the best with a rating of 1. The very affordable Meterk brand performed very well with a rating of 1.5. TickTockTools, Lexivon, and Hygiene finished with a rating of 2. Let's test the accuracy and precision of the lasers next. The edge of the tape measure is right at 149 and 15/16 inches, so it's just under 12 feet and 6 inches from the wall. The Toolman measures from the back of the tape measure. 12 feet, 5 and 13/16 of an inch for the first measurement. 12 feet 5 and 15/16 on the second, 12 5 and 15/16 on the third. So the first measurement was off by 1/8 of an inch, but the last two measurements were right on. And the Meterk uses the leading edge of the tape measure for a reference point. And the Meterk is right on at 12 feet 5 and 15/16 of an inch on the first measurement, 12 feet 5 and 15/16 on the second, 12 feet 5 and 15/16 on the third. So all three measurements with the Meterk were within 1/8 of an inch. The Zekbean is right at 15 feet 5 and 7/8 inches on the first, 7/8 on the second, and 13/16 on the third. The Milsee uses the leading edge of the tape measure as a reference point, and the Milsee is very accurate on the first measurement at 12 feet 5 and 15/16 of an inch on the first, and 15/16 on the third, so the Milsee is perfect on all three measurements. The TickTockTools uses the back of the tape measure as a reference point. The TickTockTools can store three measurements, so I went ahead and took all three. 12 feet 5 and 7/8 of an inch, then 3/4, and then 3/4 again. General Tools measures from the back of the tape measure. 149 and 13/16 on the first, 3/4 on the second, and 3/4 on the third. So the General Tools is not quite as accurate or consistent as the Meterk or the Milsee. With the eTape, anyone can read a tape measure like a pro. 15 feet 5 and 15/16 inches. The Bexum uses the leading edge of the tape measure as a reference point, but the front of the tape measure is rounded, which makes it difficult to get an accurate measurement. 12 feet 6 and 1/8 inches. 12 feet 5 and 7/8 inches on the second. 12 feet 5 and 13/16 inches on the third. So the Bexum is the least accurate yet. The laser measures from the back of the unit with the Lexivon, and the Lexivon is way off on the first two measurements at 12 feet 6 and 9/16 inches and 3/16 of an inch. 15 feet 5 and 13/16 inches on the third, and the Hygiene measured 12 feet 5 and 13/16 on the first measurement. 13/16 again on the second, and 7/8 on the third. So the Hygiene is off by just a little on all three measurements. And the DTAPE is right on target on the first two measurements at 12 feet 5 and 15/16 inches. 12 feet 5 and 15/16 inches on the third, so very accurate and consistent results from the DTAPE. The Prexiso uses the back of the tape as a reference point, right at 12 feet and 6 inches on the first. 12 feet 5 and 13/16 inches on the second and third. And the Koiss has a very bright laser and takes quick measurements. 12 5 and 13/16 on the first and second. 12 feet 5 and 3/4 inches on the third measurement. If you're looking for a tape measure with the most accuracy and consistency, the Meterk, Milsee, and DTAPE were perfect in all three measurements. However, most of the other brands were within 1/8 of an inch. I tested all the tape measures for accuracy. The hook is supposed to slide back and forth the width of the hook. If you push the end of the hook up against the side of an object, the hook is supposed to slide in the width of the hook. If the hook is placed over the end of an object, the hook should slide outward. I tested all the hooks for accuracy by pushing them up against a metal plate. All were accurate except for the Zekbean and the Hygiene, which were off by 1/16 of an inch. I then tested the hooks by placing them over the edge of the metal. All the tape measures were accurate except for the Zekbean, which was off by 1/16 of an inch. Assessing belt clip design is very subjective. Some of the clips have cushioning in the way that prevent the clip from getting started on the belt. Even though the rating is subjective, the Meterk, General Tools, Bexum, Prexiso, and Koiss all had the highest possible rating of 1. The belt clips on those brands were very well designed and easy to use. Once the tape measure is on the belt clip, it needs to provide enough holding strength so it doesn't fall off from accidental contact. After measuring the pull-off force for all the brands, the Lexivon came out on top at 8.8 pounds of force to remove the tape measure. General Tools finished in second at 5.2 pounds, Milsee 5 pounds, Meterk, Zekbean, and Stanley Fatmax 4.2 pounds. The Toolman and the Hygiene don't have belt clips. Dirt and dust can really hurt a tape measure's ability to retract the blade. So let's get our baseline retraction speed from 15 feet. I'll attach an earplug to the hook, which will help act as a cushion and prevent causing damage. Tape measures encounter dirt and dust quite often. So let's add 1 cup of sawdust into the ammo can, and then we'll shake each of the tapes for 30 seconds, beginning with the Toolman. Okay, the Toolman still powers up. Let's test the retraction speed again. 1.51 seconds, or nearly twice as long. Unfortunately, the tape recoil spring broke as I was attempting to extend the tape 15 feet. And the Meterk averaged 1.46 seconds. After 30 seconds in the ammo can, the Meterk no longer powers up. And the Meterk won't retract on its own during the first attempt. And the Meterk is 4 inches short of fully retracting on the second attempt. And the Zekbean averaged 0.68 seconds before exposure to sawdust. After 30 seconds inside the rattle can, the Zekbean still works just fine. And the dust slowed the Zekbean down by about a second, but it still retracts just fine. And the Milsee averaged just under a second before the sawdust. Unfortunately, the Milsee no longer powers up. And the sawdust slowed the Milsee down, but it still fully retracts. TickTockTools is fast at 0.75 seconds. And the TickTockTools still powers up and is working just fine. And the TickTockTools lost a little bit of speed, but still retracts the tape just fine. And the General is a little bit slower than most of the competition at just over a second. And the General still powers up and is working just fine. After shaking off the dust on the first pass, the General is back to normal on the second pass at 1.06 seconds. The eTape averaged 1.13 seconds. And the eTape is still powering up, but the sawdust is throwing off the accuracy of the eTape. And the eTape wouldn't quite fully retract on the first attempt. And the eTape is back to normal on the second attempt at just over 1 second. The Bexum is pretty fast at 0.75 seconds on both attempts. And the Bexum still powers up and is working just fine. The Bexum didn't quite close in the first attempt, but is back to normal on the second. And the Lexivon is retracting at 0.75 seconds. And the Lexivon will no longer power up after exposure to the dust. And the Lexivon is a little bit slow in the first attempt, but back to normal on the second. The Hygiene is pretty fast at 0.77 seconds. And the Hygiene survived the ammo can and is working just fine. And the Hygiene is a little bit slower after exposure to sawdust, but it still retracts the tape just fine. The DTAPE averaged 0.9 seconds. After shaking off some dust, the DTAPE still powers up and works just fine. The DTAPE slowed down quite a bit to 1.7 seconds, but it still retracts the tape just fine. The Prexiso averaged 0.75 seconds. And the Prexiso still powers up and works just fine after the dust bath. And the Prexiso is nearly as fast after the dust at 0.9 seconds. And the Koiss averaged 1.2 seconds before the dust bath. Unfortunately, the Koiss no longer powers up. And the Koiss is a little bit faster after the dust bath at 0.93 seconds. Some of these digital tape measures claim to be waterproof, so let's test that next, beginning with the Toolman. Okay, the Toolman still works. And the Meterk won't even power up, but let's go ahead and put it in the water anyway. And the Meterk is definitely out of commission. The Zekbean powers up, but unfortunately, it's no longer working properly. Definitely not a waterproof unit. The Milsee is no longer powering up. General Tools is still working just fine. And the dust caused a problem for the eTape, and the water didn't seem to help or hurt the situation. Even though the Bexum is powered up, unfortunately, it's no longer working properly. The Hygiene is still working just fine. Okay, the DTAPE is powered up. The DTAPE no longer powers up. The Prexiso still powers up, but it's no longer functioning properly. And the Koiss didn't survive the last test, but let's give it a bath anyway. And the bath didn't help. So which tape measure is best? Looking at just the performance and not the ability of the tape measure to handle abuse, the very affordable Meterk had an average ranking of 2. The Meterk has excellent physical tape measure properties such as standout and abrasion resistance. The electronic tape also offers a pretty good display, a bright laser, and is pretty accurate. The Prexiso is a lot more expensive and had an average finish of 2.8. It offers a better screen than the Meterk, and the physical tape measure seems about the same as the Meterk. The Koiss is the most expensive, and the display is very easy to read. The Koiss just doesn't seem to be built as robust as the Meterk or the Prexiso. Having a laser on a tape measure is very convenient, especially if you're working alone. A laser tape measure is a lot like a cell phone. It's an electronic device, and it's just not able to deal with the water and the sand. If I had to choose just one of the brands, I really like the Meterk. It's just over $20, and it performed very well. All the videos in this channel, including this one, are viewer suggested. So if you have a video idea, I hope you'll take time to leave a comment. Thanks so much for watching. Please take care, and I look forward to next time.